Welcome to the very first episode of Sage Studio. I am so glad you're here. I'm Tiffany Webster, and today I have an incredible guest with me. I am so grateful that he was willing to come on and share his story with us. This is the amazingly talented Shamiel Gary. Shamiel is a former NFL athlete turned excellence speaker, and he works with organizations and individuals to help them achieve their inner excellence. And he's going to share his story with us, how he went from being a high school student to a college football player to an NFL athlete to now being a motivational speaker and author. So I'm super happy to welcome you. Hey, Shamiel, how's it going?
It was going well. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the wonderful introduction.
Well, it comes pretty easy. You are a pretty cool guy. And I have to say, we kind of have this fun story as far as, I don't even know if you realize that we met through an email. I received an email when I was looking to book some talent for our Sage Stage, one of the other projects that we do here at Sage Oak. And somehow I received an email that was like, hey, Shamiel would be a great speaker. And it was just like some little promo things. And I would, they're like, check him out. Yeah, you know what? He would be awesome. And you were. So we did a Sage Stage, right?
Yeah. And then we ended up doing it 2 times. So that was awesome.
Yes, because our kids loved it. They loved the fact that we were able to get a real NFL football player to come on and chat with them. That was a huge get. They loved it. And then not only were you this cool football player, but you were this really cool guy, and you chatted with them and you answered their questions, and they loved just talking to you. And then you had a chance to share your Luray books, which are so awesome, your children's book series that you wrote.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh yeah. So that was really, really fun. I loved that. And thanks for coming back. What did you think about Sage Stage? Did you have fun with that?
Yeah, no, I thought it was an awesome experience. And I love what you're doing, being able to expose, the students to different voices, whether it's me or I think you said you had a magician or people who deal with animals. It's that's such a cool opportunity for your students. So I really appreciate it. And the students were engaged. So that's the coolest part of it as well.
Yeah, I agree. They really do enjoy it, and they love to engage. I mean, they love to get busy in the chat box or, raise their hand and answer questions. So cool that you could be part of that. And, again, that's why when we were looking at, okay, now we get to kind of expand on Sage Stage, I thought this is a really great opportunity because we had a chance to see you in the light of that presentation. But now, this episode will allow us to really get a little bit more into your backstory, right? And how everything started for you. So take us back a little bit to being in high school, being a football player. Did you have ambitions in high school to be in the NFL? Was that your dream in high school?
Yeah, that was always the goal. That was the mission. That was the destination. That was, everything that I was aiming for. It was so much the mission that actually, let me back it up a little bit. Yeah, that was the goal, but the first step within the journey was getting a D1 scholarship. And so, I dedicated my entire being to getting that particular scholarship. It was even to the point where I told my dad, I said, Dad, if I don't get a D1 scholarship, I'm going to go to the military. And
really?
I went to go take the ASVAB test, and halfway through the ASVAB test, I was like, no, I'm not going to the military. I'm gonna get a D1 scholarship. So probably, midway through my senior season, I was able to get my first scholarship to Air Force, and then had some potential offers from Kansas State. And then I ended the year with an offer from the University of Wyoming, and I ended up committing to the University of Wyoming after taking a visit there, and the rest was history. But my journey in high school wasn't I wasn't all world. I wasn't first team. I wasn't all district. Everything wasn't handed to me. It was a kind of a journey. It was an uphill climb that I appreciate now. But I probably during that period of time, I probably came home, complaining to my dad why, this wasn't happening for me. And, I was as good as this my same teammate and this and that. And, it all worked out though. I'm glad it wasn't easy for me because that same work ethic that allowed me to get the scholarship in high school transferred over to college and then transferred over to the NFL and then transferred over to life.
You learned
So,
hunger. You learned
yeah,
like to be hungry for something and to really want to go after it, right?
yeah, yeah.
So cool. So then you move. So you were able to, I mean, you were able to get that scholarship. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, why was it so important to you? Like why was that D1 scholarship so important to you? What did it mean?
The Division 1 is the top of the top. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
as a naive kid, you want to uh go somewhere. And I think it was a combination of different things because I wanted to be recognized. And I think a part of every young person and adults, person identity, they want validation. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
Division 1 scholarship, gave me validation that I was good enough,
Yeah.
that was worthy to uh play at the next level.
That's so
Right.
powerful, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Had you
So I
had a
needed that
lot of
validation.
had you had a lot of experiences leading up to that point in your life where you felt validated or you felt, like capable of doing something, or was this kind of like a very major milestone for you?
I feel like I was validated at home with my dad, with my mom, and things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to the football sense, um, probably not since elementary. And then
Mm-hmm.
after that, I was like the underdog, trying
Yeah.
to fight my way to the top. Um, and partly, that was how I that was my own self-image though. That was how I looked at myself in the mirror. That was the demons that I was battling within. Because a lot of times, you can have a lot of kids, you can have like a pimple on your nose and it's not that big, but to you, it's the biggest thing in the world. Like, oh
Yeah,
my gosh,
sure.
I gotta put toothpaste on it. I gotta scrub it. I gotta do everything, but like no one else notices it. And so that's what I was dealing with in high school. It was a lot of comparison. It was a lot of lack of confidence. It was a lot of, things that I was dealing with where I didn't think I was good enough. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of having that internal belief, um, I needed validation from coaches, friends, that scholarship. And so that's
Yeah,
why
for sure.
it was
You
important.
talk a lot about like right voices, right choices, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I bet that's
Mm-hmm.
hard when you're in high school and you've got all these distractions of friends and life around you, but you have, in a way, this intention or desire to get that D1 scholarship. Like, how did you tune in to the right voices and make the right choices in high school?
Yeah. I mean, I talk to, high school students a lot about, you got to make a goal because once you make a goal for yourself, I don't care whether it doesn't have to be the goal. Like my goal for myself was the NFL,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that was like a long-term goal, but I mean, it doesn't even have to be a long-term goal. It could just be a goal for the next 3 months, the next 2 months, the next, 1 month or whatever. And then once you make that goal, then you can filter everything through that goal, whether is this going to be beneficial or is this going to harm me from succeeding and getting that goal. And so that's how I was able to make the choices. I made a lot of negative choices, but I've also made a lot of positive choices that helped me get to where I needed to be. And so um, I ran stadiums after every single practice, and so I would ask myself, okay, my goal is to get a Division 1 scholarship. Is running stadiums going to help me get there? Yes. Well,
Yeah.
going to this party, is this going to help
Mm-hmm.
me get my Division 1 scholarship? Probably not. And so,
Right.
I would constantly like filter decisions through that lens right there. Like, okay, if I didn't turn this homework in on time, well, I probably won't be able to play. So that's not going to help me get a Division
Mm-hmm.
1 scholarship. So I
Mm-hmm.
always like filtered during high school, my decisions from that goal, whether it was family, vacations, I didn't go on spring break. I didn't do anything on spring break. I dedicated my time to, going to trainers and and things like
Wow.
that. Even in college,
Mm-hmm.
I never on spring break, all my teammates would go to, Mexico or
Mm-hmm.
Florida. I never went to one spring break, and so
Wow.
because the goal was always bigger than any party, bigger than any uh feeling that I had during that period of time. And so
I
I
love
would
that you said that.
advise.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, go ahead. You would advise what?
Um, no, no, no. I would just advise any student, just create one small goal, whether it's a health goal or a academic goal or just a goal in general. It will help you, filter your decisions, and then as you take those steps, then you start to realize, okay, I want to do this now. I want to do this,
Mm-hmm.
but you won't ever realize it until you like start taking steps in a direction. So.
Yeah, I love that. I think filtered, that's such a great word and something that I think is very relevant. And it's a term that we use constantly. And just being able to just
Mhm.
have that simple filter is such a great action step. I mean, that's something that right now high school students can do that. They can use that filter as that barometer for how they're making decisions. Like, is this going to move me towards my goal or
Mhm.
move me away towards my goal? Right. And
Right,
using that to
right.
just make decisions, I think is super critical. And I think that's a great piece of advice, along with the fact that the reality is you may have to make some sacrifices. And, those
Right.
sacrifices are the little extra that get you to where you want to be, right? Cool.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, if you look at anyone's story though, anyone who did anything, decently good. I mean, I'm not even gonna go all the way to the top and say like amazing. Just decently good. There has to be some level of sacrifice. There has to
Mm-hmm.
be some willingness to say no to things that you really want to do. And when you're able to say no, and able to put up boundaries between um social media or friends or family or events,
Mm-hmm.
you'll realize it actually like frees your mind up a little bit more and gives you more peace, rather than thinking I can do anything and everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At some point in time you will, but those boundaries and the willingness to the ability to say no will allow you to have that freedom later on in life, rather than being having to work hard later on in life because you didn't discipline yourself in the beginning.
I
So.
love the way you said that because it's actually like it can feel restrictive in the moment when you really want the instant gratification of something. Like it's hard to say no. You want to go to that party, you want
Mm-hmm.
to go out with those friends, you want to go do that thing. But what you're actually saying is saying no gives you more freedom. I love that because it
Mm-hmm.
gives you the freedom to really
Yeah.
focus in on what it is that you want to do. And ultimately, that's going to
Mm-hmm.
get you to a place where you really are living the life that you want to live, where, that's like the
Mm-hmm.
ultimate freedom, right? So, oh, that was such a good point. I
Right.
love
Right.
that. Thank you for saying that. Okay, so let's fast forward to you got the D1 scholarship, you're in college, you're working
Mm-hmm.
away, trying to be a student, trying to play football. Like, how's
Mm-hmm.
that working?
I mean, my first year is working. It's working. Fantastic. I'm enjoying the whole process. I get to University of Wyoming and go through training camp, and everything is new. I'm in a new environment. I go all the way from Oklahoma to Wyoming, where I'm in a bigger city. Growing up, where we have malls and movie theaters and other things, and you go to Wyoming is a Walmart and a Chili's.
Little bit of a shock there, right?
Yeah, right. And so like I said, the main goal was the main goal. Like I had a coach in high school tell me I wasn't good enough to play in college, and my whole I used even now, with
Mm-hmm.
what I do for a living, but I use everything as like motivation. And
Mm-hmm.
so since he told me I wasn't good enough, I was like, okay, I'm gonna prove you wrong. And so I did more things to make sure he didn't get the last laugh. And so when I
Mm-hmm.
went to Wyoming, I was prepared. I was equipped with the right skills, and I was able to start as a freshman. And so my first year, I was a freshman All American. I struggled in biology.
Mm-hmm.
I struggled with time management, and then just from the standpoint of it was a learning curve because in high school the football became more of a business once you get to college,
Mm-hmm.
because coaches have to take care of the family, and if they're not winning, guess what's going to happen to them? They're going to get fired. So,
Right.
more pressure. And so learning how to deal with the pressure of school, the pressure of having a girlfriend during that period of time, the pressure of time management, and then the pressure of like performing. Because if I
Yeah.
didn't perform, I would lose my position. And
So how
so,
did you do that? Did you have someone that kind of showed you the ropes? Did you watch other people that were doing it well? How did you learn those lessons?
I wouldn't say I learned a lot. I mean, I wouldn't say I learned the lessons, but I did. One thing I would say I'm very skilled at, and I've always been skilled at this ability. I've been in two things. One, I've been very self-aware in my entire life. Like I've been aware of like, okay, Shamiel, you're struggling in this area, so you probably need to find this person to talk to, or I've always asked myself questions.
Okay.
I think students need to learn how to sit back and like ask, like process your feelings, process, why you feel a certain way. And so I would just sit back and be like, man, what am I struggling with right now? And so I had an academic or a tutor.
Mm-hmm.
I can't
Yep.
remember her name, but she was I can't remember her name, but I would express how I felt to her. And looking back at it, I talk about right voices, right choices. She was one of those right voices for me, where the times where I had poor time management, I had to study for a test the day before, and she would just say, Shmuel, you got this. Like, don't worry, we'll get this. And she would calm me down as I'm
Mm-hmm.
stressing out about the psychology test or whatever I
Sure.
had. But then also I had a teammate by the name of Sean Gibson, and he was I think he was a sophomore or junior, but I would like sit back and I would observe how he would conduct himself, how he put in extra work, and I would almost like attach myself to him
Yeah.
to learn, right? And so, one, I would ask myself questions. I wouldn't be afraid to express myself to the advisor, and then I would find someone who's already doing something I want to do, and
Yep.
then attach myself to them and be like, okay, let me just be a sponge and learn.
Such great
So,
advice. And take some guts to do that. Take some guts to like ask
mhm,
yourself those questions and even admit like, okay, I need help in this area, or I need a
mhm,
little extra support. Like that takes some guts for sure. So good for you for doing that. And I think that's great advice to students. And then also too, like attaching yourself, like you have to put yourself out there, right? Like get on the field in a way, and literally, I guess, in
mhm,
your in
right.
your world, right? You have to like take those action steps and put yourself in the position to be surrounded by the right influences, the right people, the
Right,
right
right.
voices, all of those things. So
Yeah.
that's so great. Great advice. Thank you for that. Okay, so
Yeah.
now you're in college. You're starting to like get things going. You're starting to get some,
Mhm,
management of all the things. You're starting to learn how to kind of continue to progress towards now making this a career move, moving into the NFL. So what does that
mhm,
look like?
mhm.
How does that happen?
Okay, let me be honest. I didn't get time management down until I got done playing
Okay,
football.
okay,
So
fair
time
enough.
management was never because to all my athletes out there, I think they would everything was always being done for me from the time management standpoint. My
Mm,
classes, my practice, reminders, like all those different things right there. And now if I was to take a step back, when I was playing, I would have realized like they were already putting systems in place. So as you are going through high school, as you're going through college, you need to learn how to put systems in place so that you can operate at a high level. And so I truly believe like success leaves clues. And so
mm.
you have to take a step back and look at like what are other people doing, or what are organizations doing to run at a high level. And so if you look at any college sports program, they run at a high level. So I realize now they had reminders. They had people who held you accountable. Um, there was consequences. There's like all these different things that now I implement in my own life to
Mm-hmm.
have good time management. I tell people my goals for the week, and on Sunday we meet, and they're like, "Hey, did you get them done?" And I mean, most weeks I'm like, "Yeah." Some weeks I'm like, "I didn't get
Yeah,
it
but
done."
that accountability is critical,
Right.
right? Well, that's so
Exactly.
awesome. I'm so glad you mentioned
Um,
those things. I mean, that stuff is so good. I love what you said about success leaves clues. What a great concept to think of. And I love too that you are like, hey, now I can appreciate like all that went into keeping you on track, like back in the day when
right.
you weren't in control, so that you can do that now when you are. So
hmm
so
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. And so on my journey after that, I was a freshman All-American at Wyoming. Started 2 years. I had some situations where my girlfriend and I broke up, and uh, she ended up dating someone else on the football team,
Oh no.
and
That's
yeah, it was a
that's a tough
tough
time. That
situation.
is a legit tough time right there.
Yeah, that was a tough time right there. And my grandma had Alzheimer's and dementia at home, so my parents only got to see me play probably like 2-3 times because
Oh wow.
like a 12-hour drive. And so I decided to transfer from the University of Wyoming back to Oklahoma State, or to Oklahoma State. And I went from being an impact player. Back in the day, they had an NCAA video game, and I was an impact player on a video game. My school was paid for, everything was going well. I had agents calling me, and then I transferred to Oklahoma State, and I had to walk on. And I went from school being paid for to school not being paid for. I
Oh
went from everyone
wow.
knowing my name to no one knowing who Shamiel Gary was.
And
And
what was that like? I mean, that's a total shock.
yeah, it was you have your moments where you're thinking like, dang, did I make the right decision? And then you
Mm-hmm.
have other moments where you're on top of the world, where you're like, I'm gonna make it happen. And it's just this wave of up and down, up and down. It's a roller coaster almost. And um but I'm a you know I'm I'm big on faith, and
Mm-hmm.
so I just knew everything was gonna work out.
Mm-hmm.
um I didn't know exactly how it was gonna work out,
Yeah,
but I
sure.
knew it was gonna work out some way, somehow. And so I walked on. That first year I couldn't play, and it was tough. And so one thing I talk about when I talk to older students is, you know, you have to show up every day and be intentional about being the best version of yourself and work on yourself. Like, in order to become the best version of yourself, you have to work on yourself. And when you're in the middle of like that process right there, there's going to be a
Mm-hmm.
ton of distractions that are trying to take you off that path. And
Mm-hmm.
so as I look back on my journey, I had distractions between my girlfriend. I had distractions between not playing football and my identity issues. I had distractions between where I couldn't play football, so I started to get into drinking and doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. And finally, you get into a point where things hit the fan and you have to make a decision. And so we went to the Fiesta Bowl my senior year, and I never got tested for anything. And then they said, Shamiel Gary, we're gonna test you. I was like, oh my goodness. And so finally,
It's
I
happening.
was like, if you get me out of this, I'm a change of everything. And so I didn't get caught for anything. And from that point forward, I switched up like how I conducted myself, the people I surrounded
Mm-hmm.
myself with, um, what I was spending my time on. And so from that point forward, I started to make better decisions because,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you can work so hard for 10 years, and all it takes is one decision to take everything away.
Oh,
And
that is
so,
so true. Yeah.
yeah. So, and I'm pretty sure a high school student can recognize that in their own life. Like, you can make deposits every single day, building up trust with your parents, and then that one time you mess up, it takes all those deposits away, and now your parents don't trust you at all anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
so and
Such a
so
good
from the
point.
yeah, yeah, and
So
so
there you are. You're like, okay, now I've been given kind of like this little lucky bit of grace here. I've kind of, been
hmm
able to like take this opportunity, and you're saying to yourself, Shamiel, it's time to like get it together, get on the straight and narrow, get serious if this is what you want to do, right? So
yep,
what
yep,
happened from there? How did
yep.
you go then from college to NFL? Because now you're talking senior year right now, right?
My redshirt
Okay.
junior year,
Okay.
because I started as a freshman, so I didn't lose a year.
Okay.
Um, luckily from that right there. But so from that point forward, I once again, self-aware, I started to like sit back and be like, okay, what do I need to do to get better? So from that point forward, I started surrounding myself with the right people. I cut off friends that I had since the third grade who weren't, doing the right things. I went back to what got me the success in the beginning,
Mm.
which was I didn't go to parties anymore. Right after practice, I would go watch the film. Right after games, I would go watch the film. I just like locked in. And I tell the funny thing is I was at the gym the other day and I was playing basketball with this ninth grader.
Uh-huh.
And one thing I told him, I said, Ty, man, you got to stay focused, man. If you ever seen a horse race, they got blinders on. And
Mm.
you have to go through your life with blinders on and stay focused on the right things, because it's easy, because life has a natural thing. If me and you were to go hiking, one of us is going to adjust to the other person's pace. And
Mm.
so,
That's
and
interesting.
that's, yeah, and that's what happens in life, though. Life will either make you adjust to its pace and you'll be off the path, or you can stay locked in and stay on the path and make your friends, your family, your environment, and the other things around you adjust to your pace because you know where you're trying to go. And
Oh, that
so,
is so good. I love that. Like adjusting
yeah.
to life pace. Like, are you going to adjust to the one that, is just there, then you're going to fall in line with
Mm-hmm.
that? Or are you going to be in charge of setting the pace,
Right.
setting the tone, setting the goals? Oh, so
Mm-hmm.
good. I love that. So, so
Yeah.
good.
And so my junior year was terrible. I'm not gonna lie. Don't focus on the negative things, uh and just to go back to like how much I wanted to get better.
Hmm.
Because I seen so many people quit. I seen so many people give up. But I just truly believe that no is, and that failure is just me a learning opportunity, and me it's a one step for me to get closer to my dreams and my goals and my aspirations. So I recognized my junior year was bad. I got a sports psychologist. I sold plasma and worked at Lowe's to make enough money to go to Texas and hire a track coach.
Wow.
And so I I did all that, and my senior year, went well, and I pulled my quad my halfway through my senior season, and I've had these ups and downs, and all you can do is respond in a positive way and in the right way, instead of getting bitter
Yeah.
or getting upset. One thing I always tell people is just put the bitterness and the anger in your pocket and figure out the best solution to the problem. You
Yeah.
know,
I
um,
definitely think that's great advice too, because it can get in the way, right? I mean, when we're talking about
yeah,
filters, like, oh, that negative filter can really change the way that you see the world and also to the way that people see you. I'm sure that your coaches also noticed the difference that you were making in the effort you were putting in.
right, right. Yeah, I mean, I even had one. Uh, what was it? When I was at Wyoming,
Uh-huh.
I got benched one game because I got benched for a quarter because I fell asleep in meetings. One don't. I think I'm gonna blame them because you can't turn off all the lights in the
Right.
meeting and
You're
expect someone to
tired.
stay up. Yeah, I'm tired.
Yes.
And partly I'm staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning. That's probably my fault too, right there.
Right,
But
probably.
but he benched me for the first quarter, and my backup went in, and I'm cheering the backup on, and when he came off, I'm jumping up, chest bumping him, and all that, because I could have been mad at the coach. I could have
Yeah.
been mad at the backup. I could have been mad at the situation, but what is that going to help me? And so I
Yeah.
decided to be a good teammate and put my bitterness and my anger aside and support him. And that goes a long way,
Hmm.
because people are without you realizing that people are watching, what you're doing, even if you don't recognize that they're looking at you from afar. And so, um, I've always prided myself in having good character,
Hmm.
being a loving person, being supportive. And so throughout my every situation, because anyone can do anything when everything's going their way, but can you still be that same person when you pull your quad, when
Yeah.
your grandma has Alzheimer's and dementia, when your girlfriend, dates someone on the same team as you, when you are
Yeah, you
struggling.
have a lot of excuses to pull from, right? Like you could pull those out
Yeah.
as your excuses, like, oh no, X, Y, and Z is happening to me. But you can also
Hmm.
choose to rise above that, and that's what you're saying is
Right,
like,
right.
yes, you might have something that you can use against you, but you can also choose to not let that impact your ability to be your best and make those better decisions. So, such good advice for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, just kind of recap, man. Just I would advise any student make a goal. Just put something down on paper. You don't gotta get all into the. You don't gotta. It doesn't have to be a smart goal. It doesn't have to be this goal with all these processes. Just write it down, because
Mm-hmm.
if you can eliminate the barriers, because a lot of people don't start because things are too confusing, or it seems too difficult. Okay, just eliminate all that. Just write something down. Hey, I wanna wake up at 6 o'clock. That's a goal right there. Let's make it
Yeah.
happen. And then after that, surround yourself with the right voices, and I promise you, when you do get into tough times, they will pull you out of those dark times that you may be going through. And then don't ever give up on yourself. Like, there's gonna be times where you're gonna fail, there's gonna be times where you're winning, but don't give up on yourself. And then as you go through that process right there of climbing the mountain, of learning from your mistakes, you'll get to that pinnacle, which is, for me at that point in time in my life, was the NFL. And so I went undrafted to the Patriots. And so I did the same process, though, as I had the same process throughout my entire life. Is one, work extremely hard, look at your weaknesses and figure out how can you get better at them, and then find someone on any given organization, whether it's the
Mm-hmm.
Patriots, the Oklahoma State, University of Wyoming. Find someone who's already doing what you want to do, and take notes, and then
Mm.
ask a ton of questions. Like, I talk to students all the time, and they're like, I try to tell them certain things. You can just see in their eyes they don't really want to listen, because they think they already have all the answers. Listen, I learn from my daughter every day. I sit down, and I ask Tom Brady questions, and he was like, man, I wish more rookies would come by and sit by and ask me questions. I just want to learn. And
Yeah.
so that was my process throughout my entire life, is to
Well,
ask
that's such an
questions.
interesting point because I think you can be a little intimidating. I mean, my goodness, especially in your case, you're talking about Tom Brady, right?
Mm-hmm.
that could be super intimidating, but it can be
Mm-hmm.
just as intimidating if you're working in a restaurant and you have to go talk to your manager about a shift change or
Right.
something, or you want to know about how to get a promotion to a certain level. And what you're saying, I think, is really important is that it might be really scary to like ask for help, ask for directions, ask how you get better, but
Mm-hmm.
people that are there above you, beyond you in your journey, they're happy to share information. They want you
Yeah.
to ask
Yeah.
questions. They want to mentor somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a really great point that you just made by saying that, is that, you might be feeling like, oh, I don't want to inconvenience them or put them out. But if you're willing to ask the questions, people are there. They
Mm-hmm.
want they want to help you out.
Yeah, you gotta ask the questions. Like, um, I would encourage. Like, I don't know how many students reach out to you, but I would students. I would reach out to Tiffany and ask questions like, how'd you get to where you got? And some things you throw away, some things you keep, but
Yeah.
like, you won't ever know unless you ask. And so I've always been able to put myself out there to ask those questions that will get me to that next step,
Yeah.
because what I want most is way bigger than how I feel in that moment. And how I feel in that moment, like you said, hey, I may be nervous to ask that question, I may be uncomfortable, but I will never allow my feelings and my excuses and my feeling of like being uncomfortable to get in the way of what I want most, and my goal, and my destination. And
Yeah.
so uh that's kind of, so I went to the Patriots, um got released, and then I went to the Bears. Um, and then, well, I would love to share one thing that my coach told me at the Patriots, which is kind of, he was honest though, so I guess I appreciate it. But he basically pulled me in the other safety side and said, "Hey, there has to be something crazy happening for you guys to make this team. And
Well, that's not exactly encouraging.
yeah, I was like, oh my goodness, why'd you say that to me? But I was
Well,
like,
that's
okay,
a little too honest. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I appreciated it. Years later, because Bill Belichick actually said something, in the meeting. He was like, guys, sometimes in this league, you can do everything the right way. You can watch the film, you can perform on the football field, but sometimes things just don't work out in your way because of things that are outside of your control. And I think that is a key point in every last one of our lives, is because we get caught up in like, man, why did this person not like me, or why didn't I get this opportunity, or
Yes.
why aren't things happening for me? But sometimes it's just not your time, and you just
Mm-hmm.
have to. I think that life sometimes tests us. How bad do we really want something?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so like, are you able to commit to it and stay consistent enough where maybe you got passed over 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, but you stuck with it so long that fourth year, fifth year, you built such a strong foundation that you blew up
Mm-hmm.
that fifth year, sixth year, seventh year, whenever it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like, just stay consistent and stay committed to what you're doing, because sometimes this year just isn't your year, and this year is a year for you to build a foundation, for you to learn, for you to
Yeah.
be under someone. It's not your year to shine.
Oh,
Maybe two
that's so
years from now
good.
it's your year to shine. So
Yeah. And oh, that's so great. And I think you're right. It's like we can take things really personally sometimes. Like, I did everything right. I put myself in the right place. I
yeah.
did this. But there are those external factors that you're just not privy to that do play a role into things. And so kind of planning for that in the back of your mind of how you
Mm-hmm.
can rebound. I know you like to talk about bouncing back, or,
Mm-hmm.
just like continuing to like stay committed to your goal. I think that's really important, because a no can sometimes just mean a not yet. It's not your year
Right.
yet. It's not your time
Exactly.
yet. So that's cool. That's an
Mm-hmm.
important message. Um, so I know that you felt that so like, here you go, you're on your first team, you get let go,
Mm-hmm.
then you're over at the Patriots and you encounter that bit of honesty from
Mm-hmm.
Belichick.
Yeah.
Now how do you end up on the Dolphins, right? That's the next place you go.
Yeah, so I go from the Patriots to the Bears, finished out that year, and then I go to the Dolphins, and I'm with them for basically like a year and a half. During that year, my mom's cancer comes back,
Mm.
and then that following year, I lose my mom
Oh,
to cancer. Yeah, and so I learned a good bit of lessons from that experience, just from being with the Dolphins, to seeing my mom go through her experience with dealing with chemo and negative news from doctors and
oh my
family
gosh.
members saying silly things. One thing I learned from my mom is just the power of hope.
Mm.
Um, and I didn't realize my mom was teaching me that during that
Mm-hmm.
experience. But every time I was around her, every time I talked to her on the phone, it was never why me. It was
Mm-hmm.
always like, we're gonna get out of this situation. Like, I see myself in a different place. And
Mm-hmm.
even now, when things are happening to me, I take a lesson from my mom. My mom would always close her eyes and like put herself in a different place. And now when I go through things, I just close my eyes and I just see something better. I see myself having success. And so sometimes your condition, your circumstance is telling you something that is a tragic story. It's telling you that you're a victim, but sometimes you need to close your eyes and see yourself in a different place, regardless of what your circumstance or your condition may say about you.
Oh, for
Um,
sure. Yeah, you
yeah,
can start to see like where you can go, what it would look like if you weren't in this situation, and then you can start
exactly.
making those action steps, like you mentioned before, to like walking towards
Mhm.
towards where you want to be. Was your
Right.
mom still alive when you were injured?
Um, so I mean, I've had a couple injuries, but which injury? My bad.
Well, I kind of the one that you had on the Dolphins was your concussion was your um the major injury, right?
So yeah, so I had a concussion when I was with the Bills my last year. That was 2 years after the Dolphins. So but I did hurt my shoulder with my when I was playing with the Dolphins.
Okay.
And my mom got to see me play on Monday Night Football, which was a really cool
Oh,
experience.
that's so
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So got a chance to um play against the Giants and all that right there. But yeah, I hurt my shoulder, which allowed me to spend a month with my mom while she was
Oh,
in the hospital. And then went back to the Dolphins and finished out that year. And then she was in hospice
okay.
that following year. And then I was with the Dolphins, Bills, and then the Bills. And I got a concussion my last year with the Bills that lasted 6 months.
Wow.
So yeah. And so you know, one thing that I enjoy from my time playing in NFL is just um, you know, I enjoyed the ups and the downs, but I also just enjoyed the camaraderie. I enjoyed the process of things. It wasn't so much like playing in games and things like that, but it was more so like being able to put the work in and set my mind to something and attain it. That was like a
Mm-hmm.
really cool thing for me. And then once I got done, because I always knew that I wasn't a football player. I was just someone who played football. Like football wasn't who I was. It was
Why do you
something
say
I
that?
did.
Yeah. What's the distinction there?
Because a lot of times athletes get caught up in like football. That's their identity. Like
Uh-huh.
football is just what I did. Shamiel is a loving man. Shamiel is a father during that period of time. I'm still a father, but Shamiel is a father.
Yeah.
Shamiel is a person who loves people, who loves to check in, who wants to serve. Shamiel believes and knows he has a bigger purpose outside of the game. And so if I just thought I was a football player, once football was taken away from me, uh, my identity would be done. But
Mm.
because I knew that I was more than that, I was able to pivot and transition to my next career. I didn't retire. I just pivoted into another career in my life.
That's such a great perspective. And, I was so curious about that because I bet that that is not the case for all NFL players. And I love that you always say, what does NFL stand for? the
Oh, not for long.
not for long league, right? And not for
Yeah.
long. And I love
Right.
that.
Right.
And I think that there's probably a lot of teammates that you saw that like football was their whole world, and they probably were in a tailspin when it came to an end, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So did you always like,
Trauma.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I bet. I mean, did you know immediately what you would pivot into, or did it take a minute to figure that out?
No, I mean, I figured it out after a year,
Okay.
or yeah, about 6 months, a year. Right after I retired, I just our career changed. I took about 6 months. I traveled to Colorado. I went to different parts of Oklahoma. Went to Seattle, and I just took time for myself. And
Hmm.
I read this book called Scary Close, and it just talked about how we're all like walking in this world with a mask on, not truly living an authentic life. And so, I was trying to figure out uh, who Shamiel was and what did
Mm-hmm.
I like? What was the next step? What were my gifts? And um, I just took a deep dive into Shamiel because I think all the answers we need is like right here. We just have to take the time to sit back and be quiet and ask ourselves the right questions. I love the Michael Jackson has a song. I don't know the lyrics exactly, but he talks about how the man in the mirror needs to make a change. And
Uh-huh.
so I just took some time to look the person in the mirror because you can lie to a lot of people, but you can't lie to that person right there. So
Absolutely. Yeah, just checking in and just putting again some of your same
mhm,
action steps into place again. Looking at who do I want to be? What do I want to stand for? Am I living the life that's working towards that goal, or am I making choices that are working against that goal? And kind of just going
mhm.
back to your roots and using the same action steps that you mentioned before. So well, I think that is so
Right,
incredible.
right.
And it doesn't surprise me one bit that you were able to, transition from being athlete into being a speaker that works with organizations and works with individuals, because I think it's just such a natural fit for you. And did you, now that you're doing those things, let's see if we froze for a second here. Let me see if we can relaunch that. Hey,
All right, hello?
There you go.
There
Okay,
we
we froze for a second. I was saying it makes sense to me that you were able, with that quality inside of you, being who you are, to make that natural pivot into speaking and into leading others. Did that always come naturally to you? Like, did you just go right from being comfortable on a football field to comfortable on a stage?
No. I mean, I got an F or I got a D. I actually passed. I got a D in public speaking in college. And
No
so,
way. Are you serious?
yeah, got a D. And I was the type of person who would, once I figured out I wanted to speak, I did the same thing. I think this process has worked for me. Every time I figured out I wanted to do something, I found someone who was already doing it, asked them a ton of questions. I was always a student, and then I worked. At the end of the day, I put the plan to action. You gotta that's it. At the end of the day, you gotta make a decision. You gotta commit to it, and you gotta get better every single day. And then don't rush it. Like 5 years from now, or me looking at my first speech 4 years ago, I'm like, oh my goodness, I was terrible. And my systems and my processes are a lot better. And so, but when I first got on the stage, I was absolutely awful. Awful, terrible.
That's so funny. I heard someone say recently, and I love this. Like, if you don't cringe at the first few times you did something, you haven't started yet.
Yes.
Because you have nothing to cringe about, right? Like, if you at least have something to cringe over, like, it means you've started and you're working towards, the next iterations, right? Which are going to hopefully be way better.
Right. Yeah, hopefully, right?
That's the end game. Well, Shamiel, you've been so awesome to talk to. You always are. I think because you have these core character traits, it's a reason why as soon as we started talking about Sage Stage, I just really admired the person that you were. You're just so easy to connect with, so genuine. I could see how our students connected with you, and it was like the ideas were already going in my mind. I'm like, oh, I gotta have him back in another way so that more of our high school students can hear your story and hear your tenacity and hear the ways that you have dug deep in your life to get yourself to where you go. So thank you so much for sharing that with me. I really, really appreciate that. Before I let you go, though, I'm just gonna ask you a few rapid fire questions just for fun. Are you ready for that?
Okay.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
Favorite movie?
Favorite movie? I would either say recently, I love Sing 2. That's what we've been listening to, watching here lately, or Remember the Titans. Can't go wrong right there.
Okay. Favorite food?
Shrimp fried rice.
Oh, yum. That's a good one. Favorite sport?
Sport. Favorite sport to play, football. Favorite sport to watch, tennis.
Oh, nice. That's very cool.
Yeah.
All right. If you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you do?
If I wasn't speaking right now, and being an author, which I'm gonna do this later on in life. I'll be a head coach of a high school football team.
Oh, sweet. Good. Yeah. Favorite place to travel?
I love Canada. I mean, I love Toronto. I love Montreal. Supposed to go to Vancouver, but they have some restrictions where I couldn't go. So that will happen sometime in the future.
Favorite music?
Music. Right now I have been listening to a lot of lo-fi music, jazz. I've been very cognizant of the words that infiltrate my ears. So instead of just having like words, random, lyrics coming to my mind, I love instrumental music. And so I have my own soundtrack for myself that I repeat, throughout the year throughout the day, because I'm super intentional with my words. I think we all have the power of life and death within our mouths, and you have to be intentional with what you allow to come in.
For sure. For sure. Well, I think that is a great way to leave it. Shamiel, I cannot thank you enough. We did it. Episode 1 of Sage Studio. So pumped about that. Thank you for helping me make this podcast, this dream, a reality for Sage Oak and for our students. So I truly appreciate you. I can't wait to stay in touch and